Oh, Amy Schumer, Amy Schumer, Amy Schumer. Just when you think she couldn't get any less funny than she already is, she does something which is insane, actually. Amy Schumer says women must identify as feminist or are insane. The comedian impaled herself on paradox surrounding women's choice. Yeah, pretty much. Now, women shouldn't just women don't have to must identify as feminist. You know, women can be for women's rights without identifying as feminist. But anyway, here's how the article starts off. A women's free choice is integral to feminist principles, apparently. But comedian Amy Schumer has branded anyone who doesn't subscribe to the political movement as insane. Yeah, because the people who identify as feminist on college campuses aren't insane. Let me check. No, they're perfectly normal by, telling a Lyft driver that he's misogynistic because he has a hula girl bobblehead on his dashboard of his car while constantly belittling him for being less Asian than she is. Yeah, that's not insane or bigoted. That's perfectly normal to do. In an interview with BBC's Newsnight, Emily Madalis, which will air this evening, the TV star branded women who dissent from the school of thought as ignorant. How is that a school of thought? It's can women choose to be for women's rights without being a feminist? Yeah, they can. Amy Schumer, you may not remember this, but you're an American, and in America, we have the right to think however the hell we want to, and if women don't want to identify as feminists, that's their right to. And even as a guy, I don't feel the need to identify as feminist. I call myself an egalitarian, which is the equality of men and women. That's what feminism used to mean, but now it means something completely different. I think anyone who is not a feminist is an insane person. I think they don't know what feminism means. No, obviously you don't know what feminism means. If feminism is equal to blame men for all your problems, you don't know what feminism means. Her comments come despite the fact of number of high-profile successful women refuse to identify with the F word, and they mean feminist. These include Meryl Streep, Sarah Jessica Parker, PJ Harvey, Madonna, Bjork, Lady Gaga, Kaylee Minogue, and Katy Perry. Meryl Streep has refused to identify as feminist, instead calling herself an equalist. Sarah Jessica Parker has also shunned the term. All of them argued that feminism, though defined in the dictionary as the doctrine advocating social, political, and other rights of women equal to those as men, frequently and deliberately ignores men's issues. Yes. That's what a lot of these quote-unquote feminists do. They do ignore men's issues. It's like, like when the subject of rape comes up, only a woman is a victim of rape. But when a guy says, I was sexually assaulted by a priest in my old church, they're like, oh, you're lying. That never happened to you. Yeah, so that's true. If feminism is supposed to be the equality of men and women, and that's what egalitarian's goal is to have full equality of men and women. If you're going to ignore men's issues and only advocate women's issues, well, you're not, what's the word I'm looking for? You're not doing what you're preaching. These include the suicide rate, male victims of domestic violence, the gendered sentencing gap, which sees women get lighter sentences for the same crimes, fathers' rights, circumcision, life expectancy, disparities, and boys being failed by the education system. Yeah. Why is it that, circumcision is so forced upon baby boys when that's equivalent to female genital mutilation? The foreskin on the male's tip of his penis is the equivalent of the clitoris of a woman's vagina. It stimulates the sexual organ. And if it's not present during the time of sexual activity, there's no stimulation. Father's rights, yeah. So, and that's a perfect example of, when men's issues are being ignored. It's like, you could have a mother and father having a child, but let's just say the mother's abusive to the child, but yet she could play victim and the father can lose all his parenting rights to his own child. And yes, there are some times when men are, abusive to their children and they lose their rights to raise their children, and rightfully so. But there are times when women are bad parents too, but they get to keep their child even though they're the one who's causing the most misery upon their child. Making matters worse, men who try to raise awareness of these problems are often shamed with terms such as mansplaining or simple accusations of misogyny. Yes, and I can't stand that word. Mansplaining is blatantly sexist. Blatantly sexist. And it's like, it's okay for a feminist to use the term mansplaining, but it's not okay for a man to use the term womansplaining, because then he'd be labeled a misogynist. But yeah, and the accusations of misogyny, Jesus goddamn Christ, that's annoying. It's so stupid to keep blaming men for misogyny when clearly they have a different opinion than a woman does on a topic. That does not mean the man is a misogynist. I mean, some men legitimately are misogynistic fucking assholes, like Donald Trump. But, men in general are for women's rights. And if a man has a different opinion on a political subject, does not mean he's a misogynist. It means he has a different opinion. In addition, a recent UK survey found that 7% of Britons identify as feminist, while the majority support equality in general. Yeah, you don't need to identify as feminist in order to support equality. But despite this, the star remains defiant in her views on the world. Amy, who is currently in the UK as part of a tour, said she is comfortable being described as both feminist and a comedian. Really? And here's the funny thing about Amy Schumer calling herself a comedian, is that, first of all, comedians comedians should make fun of everybody, and that includes feminists. But if you say that you can't make fun of feminism because you're a feminist, well, you're not really a true comedian. You're anything but a comedian. You're someone who uses comedy as a platform to push an agenda, which in the end does not make you funny. It actually makes you more unfunny. It just means equality for women, but I think the word has a whole different meaning for different people. So someone will say to me, you're not feminist, are you?" Of course I am. Of course I want equal rights for women. Feminism is just about women having social, political, and economic equality, she said. Yeah, social, political, and economic equality to men. To men. The equality of men and women. That's feminism. That is the dictionary definition of feminism. And if you think it's okay to leave men's rights out of the social, political, and economic equality standpoint, that's what's a superiority complex. So you want women to have more rights over men. It's like, no. That's not full equality to men and women then. That's, superiority over men. It's, no. Men and women are not better than one another. It's just sex organs that makes us different. Other than that, it's, we're all the same human beings, regardless regardless of what genitalia you have. And to be honest, I'd rather be an egalitarian than a feminist any day, because I'd rather fight for the equal rights of both men and women instead of just fighting for the rights of women and saying, fuck men's rights because men shouldn't have any. It's so stupid. I feel very comfortable speaking about myself as a comedian and a feminist because those two things that I'm completely okay, if you want to identify as feminist, go ahead, but leave that out of the subject when you're doing a comedy tour. Those are two words that definitely define me. Yeah, who cares if they define you? But here's the thing, though. Feminism and comedy do not pair well. Just like political correctness and comedy don't pair well. So how can you be funny when, in the end, really, you're just somebody who's using comedy as to push an agenda, and so therefore people don't find you funny?